Okay, so welcome aboard our session 2 with Dr. Casandrea Sereno. Today we are going to be focusing our Job Search Jumpstart series on resumes. We are recording the session and this will be available as all materials when we are done with the session today. Glad to have you here today.
Awesome. I am really excited to chat with you guys today. Resumes are one of my favorite things to talk about, and I very rarely get to do an entire session just on resumes. And so I'm really excited to share this with you guys today. So once I'm sharing screens, I'm not able to see the chat, but there will be some times in here where we'll ask for feedback. So you can pop it in the chat. You can unmute your microphone. It's a real small, intimate group. So we've got plenty of time to work with and go through everything here. So basically what we're talking about today is creating a resume. So put into chat or do a thumbs up. Let us know, do you already have a resume that you're using when you apply for jobs? Where are you guys at with that? Or are you starting completely from scratch with something new? Let us know in the chat.
I just sent mine to you.
You just sent one? Awesome. We'll take a look at that. If we have time at the end, we can definitely check that out. So resumes are a really integral part of a job search, and they are a majority of what people think of when they need to apply to a job. They know they need a resume, but we're going to talk about all the parts and pieces of what it takes to get that job. And so this is our second session. We're in the resume that works. Our next session is going to be about LinkedIn. Then we're going to talk about personal branding and then bringing it all together. So today we're just going to focus on resumes specifically. And then we'll talk about how this fits into your professional portfolio going forward a little bit later. Is that okay? Good? Awesome. So for those of you listening, what is a resume? What is its purpose of a resume? What is it good for? And so if you could, we've got a poll everywhere. If you're familiar with poll everywhere, you can either jump online to the link there at the top, or you can do it via text, and tell us, what is the purpose of a resume? What have you heard about resumes? What's its purpose? What is it good for? And you can answer as many times as you want. What is a resume for? What's its purpose? So you can open a new tab and either text in or open a new tab and go to that link. Tell us, what do you think? What do you think resumes are good for? And they will pop up as you guys send them in. Is it working? You guys able to text things in or do an extra tab? Joey, is it working on your side? Vanessa?
Yeah, I'm typing it up now.
Okay, cool. Perfect. So yeah, so a lot of times we hear, you know, bits and pieces, either from parents, from professors, from teachers, what the resume is supposed to be. And so sometimes that's correct information, sometimes it's not, but it's good to get these sort of preconceived notions up front and what you guys have heard about how resumes work. What does it look like? What are they good for? Whoop. Things are being weird. All right, this is fun. All right, my computer just went all wobbly. Let's see what's going on here. Come on, internet, get it together. That's Mozilla. Here's our slideshow. Not sure what's going on. Something is being very weird. Let's see. Hooray for technology. Once it will not foil us today. We will make this happen. All right, what if I close that? All right, we'll do that then. So the internet does not like poll everywhere. Good to know. We will continue. So tell us in the chat. Go ahead and unmute your microphone. What's the purpose of the resume? What have you guys heard? Joey, Vanessa.
Just to like show off all of your work experience and school experience to your employer.
Mm-hmm. So it's something that shows your experience. Yep. What else have you guys heard?
I think that's really it. As far as I understand what a resume is, it's kind of just to showcase your experiences and also gives you an opportunity to talk about yourself, maybe personal.
Yep. So the whole purpose of your resume is to land the interview. That is its only purpose, right? So if we look at this hiring sort of life cycle here, come on, there we go. Made the internet angry. So how it works when you're applying for jobs, you see the job posting, the company has this open position. They might post about it online, they might post about it in person. You're gonna submit your application. Most of the time now it's an online form, and it'll ask you to submit your resume and your cover letter. And the next thing in the list of the job search is the interview. So the resume's job is to get that hiring manager to want to meet you. That is it. It can be a repository of your information. It can include some, maybe all of your education, all of your experiences, but at the end of the day, the whole purpose of that resume is to make it to the next step in the hiring process, which is the interview. So we want who you are, your experiences, and your personality to jump off the page for that hiring manager and make them say, I need to meet this person, okay? Then we're familiar with interviews. If you've had an interview before, this is where a short list of candidates are called in. Might be a phone interview, might be a Skype interview, might be an in-person interview, but they're bringing in multiple candidates to interview for this position. Typically, once they've interviewed and selected a candidate, the company will then check references. So this could be a background check. This could be the personal references that you've put on your resume. We'll talk about references in this session. And then they're going to make you an offer. Typically, a hiring offer is made in writing. And at that point, we'll usually include a stated salary, a stated benefits, and they're officially asking you to come on board. Usually these hiring letters require you to sign them, and then you're taking that contract. So typically people will apply for jobs before they've left their last job. And so you don't necessarily want to leave your job while you're in that application or the interview stage. Until you get that hiring letter, you don't actually have that job, okay? The other thing about the hiring letter is the salary and benefits. Sometimes companies will put the salary in the posting, which is great if they do. Sometimes it may be more addressed in the interview or sort of towards the late stage. At the offer is also when you can negotiate. A lot of people don't know that you can negotiate salary and benefits. Some entry-level positions, there might not be a lot of wiggle room for negotiation in the salary, but especially for higher and more senior level positions or with benefits, or if it's something where, say, you're relocating for a position, you might want to ask for additional things in that offer letter that would basically sweeten the pot for you, right? So if I'm going to move and take a job in California and I need to move from Florida, I might ask, for example, for relocation assistance. And if they were going to give it to me, that would be reflected in that written hiring letter. If it's not written, it's not legal. So when you're at that point and you're getting those job offers, you want to make sure that all the important information is in that offer letter. Does that make sense? Good so far? Okay. So that's the purpose of the resume. We're trying to get to that next step in land the interview. The purpose of the resume to get us that to that next step. So we need to think of it from the hiring manager's perspective. They have work that they need to get done, and they need someone to come in and take this work off their plate. So you want your resume to be tailored to the position you're applying for. You want to make sure it's got your most up-to-date information, that there's no spelling or grammar errors. These are things you've probably already heard about resumes already, right? You want to make sure that it's well formatted, and you want to make sure that when you're talking about your experiences, you're talking about the impact that you made at that role, preferably with quantifiable details, and we'll talk more about what that means in this session. You might have heard sometimes people will say, put your picture on your resume. I'm going to recommend no pictures on your resume unless you're an actor and then you need a headshot. Or if it's something, you know, in theater or something like that where it's mainstream. But for the majority of public companies, government agencies, state employers, those sort of things, they don't want to have a picture on your resume. And indeed, sometimes that can disqualify you from the position based on protected hiring classes. So for example, I work for a state school in Florida. If someone puts their picture on their resume, we automatically kick it out of contention. So that can be something that people think when they're looking at new templates. Oh, let me put my picture on there. Unless you're an actor, you don't need it. If you're bringing a copy of your resume somewhere, maybe you're bringing it to a career fair or an in-person event, a hiring event, or you're coming to your interview and you're bringing a copy of your resume, you want to make sure that it's printed on quality paper. And I would also recommend that you've printed it on a laser printer, not an inkjet, so that way the typing is very crisp. Remember, you don't know who the interviewer on the other side of the interview is going to be, and you don't know their ability, you know, if they're an older person who maybe uses glasses to read, you don't want to give them fuzzy text. So we want to make sure that it's printed well and that it's easy to read. A lot of times the Career Center at your college can help with this and get you prepared for these in-person events or for career fairs and help you make sure that your artifacts are as crisp and professional as possible. When you're not printing them and you're saving them and you're uploading them electronically on the internet, you want to make sure that it's very professionally named, your first name, your last name, the word resume, and you want to send it as a PDF. So even if you made it in Microsoft Word or something else, you want to make sure you save it as a PDF so it preserves that formatting. Also, it's helpful to put your first and your last name and the word resume in there. So when the recruiter's going back through their resumes, it's very easy to tell A, which ones are resumes, and B, whose resume this belongs to. So we're thinking about it as we're trying to make the hiring manager's job as easy as possible, because that says something about who you are as a person, that you're considerate to others. Okay, make sense so far? Good, any questions? If you think of any questions, pop up in the chat or turn your microphone on and stop me at any point. We've got plenty of time to go through stuff, and we can definitely tailor this to those of you who are in the presentation. So we're going to skip poll everywhere, but tell me some advice that you have heard about resumes. What have you heard about the way your resume should look? What have you guys been told? Pop up in chat or unmute your microphone. Let's jump into the conversation. What have you been told about your resume?
I've been told that it should be a little bit more simple. Like, I had help with one of my resumes before, and it was like the person who helped me made it a little more sophisticated, I would say. And then somebody else told me that maybe it should be a little bit more simple. So I don't.
So differing opinions. Yep. Have you guys heard that you should only use one page?
Yeah.
That's a pretty common misconception. Yep. Yep. Any others?
There should only be 5 things, like your 5 experiences or previous jobs. Don't list all the jobs you've ever had.
Okay. Okay. So a lot of times,
Comment here, sorry, Cassandra. Not having too many words, not too wordy.
So sometimes this advice is helpful, and sometimes it's old, outdated career advice. So we talked about in our first session that a lot of our older career advice doesn't work in this new economy, right? This thing that you shouldn't jump jobs, that you should stay at a position for 3 to 5 years to put it on your resume, that you should not add contract work or volunteer work. But the pace of the economy today is different, right? We know that your generation is going to have 25 to 30 jobs in their lifetime over probably 5 to 7 separate careers. And so our artifacts have to evolve with this new job market. And so what I would say for when you're thinking about your resume now, we want to first start with the overall look and feel of the resume. Why is that? Because the average recruiter is only going to look at your resume for about 6 seconds before they decide to move on to the next person in the pile. You have got to hook them quickly and make them want to read more in depth. You're going to spend hours putting your resume together, and that person's going to look at it very, very quickly. And so we need to make sure that it's aesthetically pleasing to the eye and that it's easy to read, right? So that's when they say don't use a lot of words. That's what they're talking about, right? The eye looks for white space and it looks for symmetry. And so sort of the way, you know, we see an image and we know it's pleasing or not, we're looking for that sort of feel in your resume. So alignment and the use of your white space is crucial. Whether you use 1 page or 2 pages, if you take it, you got to use it, right? It's like buffet rules. If you have 1.5 resumes, it makes you look lazy because either A, you didn't have enough experiences to fill 2 pages, or you didn't spend enough time to format your resume correctly. So whether you use 1 page or 2 page or 3 pages, use what you take, but make sure that everything you're putting on there is tailored to those positions that you're applying for. So you're gonna rewrite your resume for every job you apply for, tweaking, taking things on and off, moving things around. And so you're right, you might not list every position you've had, but you're gonna list the relevant ones for that position. Or if you've not had a lot of positions at all, maybe you have volunteer work, maybe you have student organizations that you're a part of, that you are working in capacity, maybe you're an e-board member. When you're at the beginning of your job search and you don't have a lot of things on your resume, sometimes you have to put your experiences in there where you can. And so think about this if you're at the in-person career fair, maybe your university holds for you, right? And everybody's in a room and there's all these recruiters at tables and you're bringing a stack of your resume. That career person at the school is going to take those stack of resumes back to their company. So imagine them taking a stack of resumes. How are you going to stand out in that stack of resumes so that they remember your conversation, that they remember who you are and who they handed it to you, right? Some people at career fairs, you'll notice after they talk with a candidate, they'll quickly write notes on the back of their resume. Sometimes that helps them to keep track of it. But you also want them to when they look at all the resumes and compare, to see yours jump out of the stack. And that's what we're going to talk about over these next couple of slides. At the end, we're also going to talk about keyword optimization and this thing called an applicant tracking system and how that has totally changed the game for resumes. So we're going to talk more about that a little bit farther down. Good so far? Okay. So this probably looks like the resumes you've been told to make, right? Very simple, very much the old style. All on 1 page, we've got some information on there. And it's not a bad resume. It just doesn't tell me anything about your personality, and nothing on here is jumping out at me, right? In a stack, all of these resumes are going to look exactly the same. And so the idea is there's better ways to use the white space. There's better ways to format this in a way that's going to make that recruiter want to read those blocks of text. Does that make sense so far? So when you're looking at this, what do we like on there? He's got his contact information. He's got a phone number, an email, his address, his education's up at the top. When you're currently in school, or you're just about to graduate, or you're a recent graduate, your education is often the coolest thing about you, and so it deserves a place at the top of your resume. As you go through your career and you get farther away from school, you can move that to other places as you move more relevant things to the top. The top of your resume, we talk about it as being above the fold, sort of newspaper lingo, needs to tell me the most important things about you, right? And if the coolest thing about you right now is that degree that you're finishing, put that on there. He includes his GPA, which is great. If your GPA is above a 3.5, feel free to include it. If it's any less, don't worry about it. We want to show off good things about yourself. If you were named as a scholarship recipient, if you were nominated to the dean's list, those are things you can put on your resume, and they're listed here. And then he goes into his work experience. He's worked at American Eagle, he's worked at stores, he's also got some volunteer experience on here, but it's not really special, right? In a pool of all these candidates, I'm probably looking at a lot of people who are very similar. But what if he was competing against this person? So unmute yourself and tell me, what are your first thoughts if you were to see this resume come across your desk? If you were that hiring manager and you're looking at John and you're looking at Kinsley, tell me what you think differently about these two potential employees.
Kinsley's more creative and
Why do we think that?
Because she has more detail on her resume. It's formatted in a creative way. It's unique.
It's unique, right? It's going to stand out. There's probably nobody else who came to that career fair with that same template, right? Whereas poor John probably used the Microsoft Word template like everybody else. What else? What else, you guys? What else are you noticing? Did anybody notice they have their LinkedIn on there? Yeah, we're going to talk about LinkedIn in our next section and how important it is. But they included that. The idea is to make the hiring manager want to meet you, right? So give them more reasons to fall in love with you. When somebody's looking at this resume, they're automatically going to think things about this person, right? And we're going to think they're more creative. They might not have made this template. They might have bought this template, and we'll talk about where you can buy templates. But automatically, we're thinking really positive things about this candidate, right? We're thinking that they put a lot of time and effort into their resume. We're thinking that they spent time making sure that it was aesthetically pleasing and very easily ordered so that the hiring manager can tell exactly what they're looking at. When you're looking at that first page resume right there on the left, that image, notice how your eye jumps from section to section. So if you're very quickly scanning this resume, as the recruiter is doing for 6 seconds, you can tell how your eye is jumping from section to section. All right, there's her name. Looks like they got a logo up there. They got a career summary, education, work experience, expertise. The format is drawing me in and encouraging me to read more. Does that make sense? We don't know why it's working, right? Sometimes when we're drawn to things that we like, we kind of have that gut reaction, right? I don't know why I like it, but I just like it. We talked about this in the first session. That's the limbic part of your system, your lizard brain, as it were. So why we like things, that area of your brain doesn't have the capacity for speech and language. And so often we struggle with explaining why we like something or why we feel something. We just say, you know, I like it. I feel it in my gut, right? That's that part of your brain talking. And so that is the part of the brain that we are trying to attract in that hiring manager, right? We want them to think nice things about us, and we want them to want to meet us. And so we're trying to appeal to that lizard part of the brain. Also here, you notice that they have their cover letter and it matches. And we're going to talk about their cover letter, but it's in the exact same style. So is their references. So if in my stack of resumes, if these pages were to say come apart in some way, I can link that resume, that reference, and that cover letter back together if I needed to, right? They clearly belong together in a packaged set. Make sense? Good so far? Okay. And we're always going to have a cover letter and references as part of your resume because it shows you're willing to do that one extra little step to make that good first impression. Now, ideally, when you're applying for a job, you're not applying to that company blind. Ideally, you want to have an in at that company, either a connection that works there or an informational interview that you've conducted with that hiring manager or someone you've connected with on LinkedIn, so that you're not just applying blind to that company. That's the ideal. But sometimes you might not have a connection there, or you might just have found the perfect position and you haven't had time to do a lot of research on it and you need to apply very quickly. This is where your materials need to help you get that next step, right? We're trying to move forward in that next step of the hiring section. Does that make sense so far? We're good? Yep. Okay. So we know aesthetic is important. We know that the recruiters aren't going to spend a lot of time reading the details at first glance. We got to hook them in so that they want to read more about us. So what should I include on this resume? So definitely your education. Include your most relevant degrees, include certifications. If you're Microsoft certified, if you're Adobe certified, PowerPoint certified, for nursing, right? If you're EMT certified or CPR certified, those certifications mean something in your industry, include them. Also include languages spoken. If you speak more than one language, you are about 50% more likely to get hired by a hiring manager, looking at different aspects, because to a hiring manager, this is like I just got a second person completely for free. And so if you speak more than one language, even if it's just conversational, even if you're just taking it in college to add to your resume, put that on there. You know, I'm fluent in English and Spanish, and I'm conversational in French. Right? That also tells me that you know how to talk to people and of different cultures and different backgrounds. And that says more nice things about you as a person. So make sure your languages are on there. We're definitely going to put your LinkedIn profile. We're going to talk more in depth about LinkedIn next time, but your LinkedIn is your electronic billboard to the professional world. And we were talking about how you're not necessarily going to put every job you've ever had on your resume. You can put every job you've ever had on your LinkedIn. This is kind of your internet homepage for yourself. So including your URL, your web link for your LinkedIn on your resume, encourages that recruiter to go look up more good information about you. And then when that LinkedIn has much more good information about you, it's helping me formulate a picture in my mind of an employee that I want to hire, right? Remember, these are employers who have extra work that they're having to do right now, and they need someone to come in and take that work off their plate. You want to be that person, right? So if I'm thinking about the candidate and the characteristics I want my candidate to have, I want someone who is hardworking, willing to go that extra mile, detail-oriented, and so your materials need to suggest to me that you are that person. Does that make sense? Okay. Your email address, you're going to put your email address on there. We talked about this in the last session. We're going to use a Gmail address. That's considered the most professional right now. And we're going to only use that Gmail address for your professional things, for when you apply to jobs, for when you sign up to your LinkedIn profile. The reason being is you don't want anything that comes to this email address to get lost in the clutter of your daily life. If someone is calling you or emailing you for an interview, you don't want to miss that email. You want to be able to answer it quickly, reply professionally, and not get it lost in with all the other things that you've got in your email. So a separate professional Gmail address is a great way of doing that. We also don't want to use your school address because it shows you're still in school, right? And subconsciously as an employer, if you're still in school, you're not ready for a job. And so not using that school address, even though you have one, you don't want to do it. Also don't want to use a silly email address. So if you have like your personal email address is cheergirl86, right? That's not necessarily professional. So we don't want to use any of those. A professional Gmail address, first name, last name at Gmail, first name, middle initial, last name, some combination of that. A professional email address is key. And then when we're talking about your accomplishments and your roles, show me, don't tell me. And we're going to talk about that on the next slide. But what did you accomplish in your positions? How did you add value to that company? Think about this in terms of the hiring manager, right? I have work I need done, and I'm trying to bring in someone who's going to be able to take that work off my plate and be a good value for the salary that I'm paying them, right? And so if you've done good work for your last company, I assume you're going to do good work for me. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay. And also, your resume is never going to be finished. It is always going to be changing and evolving, and you're going to edit it for every single job you apply for. Every single one. And we're going to talk about applicant tracking systems and why it's so important to update your resume for every single job. But these are the most important critical pieces to include on that resume. So how do we do this? By really thinking about the jobs that you've had and the things that you've done at that job. So, for example, a lot of people in high school and college might work a cashier job, either at the grocery store or at a retail organization. And so rather than just put, I was a cashier at Publix, you would say something like your impact, the quantifiable numbers that you dealt with every day, because you did do these things. And it's just a way of relating the information to show exactly what you did and to explain it for someone who might not have had that job, right? So if you're a cashier, you might say something like managed cash in excess of $1,000 per shift, ensuring no overages or shortages, that you had to reconcile accounts, right? You're still a cashier, but if I've never been a cashier anymore before, this is helping me respect what it is you do as a cashier. Also, being able to manage money, right? Ensuring no overages and shortages. That's important to any business. I want to have somebody I can trust. And so if you've had those roles, tell that employer about it. Does that make sense? Good so far. So cashier. If you were a server, right? A lot of people work in the hospitality industry. They wait tables while they're in college. So talk about your impact to the bottom line. You ensured 100% guest satisfaction. Were you ever secret shopped? Did you pass that secret shop? Talk about that. Managing food and beverage orders. Memorizing drink recipes if you're a bartender, right? So in my mind, I think I know what a bartender does if I've never had that job. But also, it's a really hard job, right? You're having to manage people in a very fast environment, and you're having to keep a lot of information in your head. So when you're talking about what you've done, you want to make sure that the skills that you've got from that job translate onto the other side, right? So someone who's a bartender who is now applying for a job as a nurse, for example, telling me, the hiring manager, that you've memorized hundreds of drink recipes, that tells me something about who you are as a person, right? That tells me that you are able to memorize a lot of information and pull it as you need it. That's an important skill for any job. Does that make sense? Okay. Anna, are you still here, or do we need to let you back in? I noticed your picture ran away.
I'm here. My son
Okay.
was asking something. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. I just want to make sure I didn't need to hop out of the presentation and let somebody back in. Okay, cool. Was anybody a restaurant manager? Maybe you're working at a restaurant. And how do I say that on my resume? So you might talk about how you're training front of house staff. Was that part of what your role was? Did you need to train bartenders, hostesses? A lot of times we do the job every day and we don't think about actually what we do at that job. And your resume is that one place where you can talk about what that job actually is, the nitty-gritty details. And you're also trying to convey that value to the hiring manager, if that makes sense. Some people might work in a warehouse, right? That's a pretty common job for people who are in college. So how do I talk about the work I did at the warehouse? We might use words like managing inventory, that you had to rotate stock, that you had to process incoming and outgoing shipments, right? So things that help that hiring manager understand what you do in a day-to-day job and how those skills are going to translate into the job I want to hire you for. right? So managing inventory, you've got to be detail oriented, right? You got to send the right package to the right person at the right time. That requires a level of detail orientedness that that hiring manager might not have thought you possessed until you told them you did. Does that make sense? Okay. A lot of people might babysit in high school or in college, and so that's a really common job. So talk about that and use terms that make sense to that role, right? You were a child care professional. Maybe you were CPR certified. Maybe you cared for elementary age children and you helped with homework. That says a lot more about you as the employee than just saying I was a babysitter, because you actually were doing more things, right? Keeping little people entertained and not screaming is a really difficult job. How do I say that on my resume in a way that's going to help my next employer understand the values that I'm bringing to the table? A lot of times, especially as women, we're taught to minimize. We're taught to not toot our own horn. We're taught to not be boastful in what we do. But your resume is where you can do that humble brag, that you're talking about the skills that you bring to the table and how you're going to use those skills for that manager at that hiring company. Does that make sense so far? Okay. So for those of you in there, unmute. Are these roles things that you've done on your own resume? Does anybody have a job that I haven't talked about that you have on your resume that you would like some help wordsmithing? Joey or Victoria? What roles are you guys in right now? What jobs that you have listed on your resume? What positions are you guys holding?
Right now I have robotics programmer,
Awesome. So what do you do in that role?
program robots.
Okay, but if I don't know anything about robots, how would you explain it to me? Right? Do you use a particular software? You know, used Ruby on Rails, used JavaScript, used C++, right? So you might talk about the software that you use to program these robots.
Right.
You might talk about what type of robots they are. Are they personal assisting robots? Are they robots that help people move things from one area to the other? Are they big robots? Are they small robots? Are they personal assistant robots, or are they manufacturing robots? Right? There's ways to talk about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And also, we got space to fill, right? So robot programmer is just one line. What else can I say about that? What else, you guys? What other jobs do you guys have right now?
I work at a nursery home as like a server.
Okay. So is it with elderly people or little kids?
Elderlies.
Okay. So, and you're a server, so we're handling food.
Yeah.
You probably also have to make conversation constantly, right?
Yeah.
Because they're talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to make it a pleasant experience, right? So we might say something like how many orders you process per day, right? So if it's a large nursing home and you're in charge of feeding 150 elderly patients every day, that tells me about the amount of work you do on a daily basis, right? If you're having to run here and there and get everybody fed, 150 people is a lot, right? So even if I've never worked in a nursing home before, now I'm getting an idea of what your day looks like, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we're talking about people who need extra assistance, right? So if they're elderly, talk about, why they're at that nursing home, right? So they might have limited mobility. So you might have to be cutting food. You might have to be assisting with feeding some of these patients. You might need to be making conversation with these patrons, so that way they get that human interaction, right? You've got to provide professional, courteous customer service every day, right? Because they're older and we want to show respect, and you can't just throw down the tray and leave, right? We've got to make sure they have what they need. Maybe you're doing multiple meals per day. Maybe breakfast is at 5 a.m. and dinner's at 4 and you're there all day. Talking about all those things that you've done. Maybe you're helping to manage the menu. Maybe you're helping to organize what are we having for meals this week. Maybe you're helping with the ordering. and the shipping and the, you know, bringing in the stock, rotating the foodstuffs, making sure that you're creating healthy meals for them, right? There's a lot we can say about that position, even if that position doesn't really relate to the next job you're applying for, right?
Yeah, right.
Some of those jobs are very labor intensive as well. So if you had to lift 50 to 100 pound boxes, right, that shows me that you can handle that physical sort of labor. If it's, you know, you were working 10-hour shifts 3 days a week, right, that tells me something about the kind of work you've done before. Even if I've never done any of this work, it's putting it in language that I, as someone who's never done the job, can still understand.
Oh, okay.
Make sense? And if you're going to be a nurse, well, we know that nurses routinely work 12, 15, 18-hour shifts. So showing me that you've already done that tells me things about you, right? Like, oh, well, she can already handle a 15-hour shift. She's been doing it in her last 3 jobs.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's not like we're trying to polish a crummy job, right? I can make any job sound professional. And you did that job, right? You've learned skills at that job. Even if you don't necessarily know how to phrase it, your career center people, your trio advisors, you can ask me. We can talk about ways to show what you got out of that position. That's the most important thing, because we're trying to show that next hiring manager that you're coming in with all these skills and abilities that you're going to use on their behalf in this new role. And you're trying to show the value that you bring, right? Value is 100% perception. You are only as valuable to me as I think you are, right? And we know this. We know this because we see it in consumer products, right? Why is a Target bag $20 and a Coach bag $300, right? They do the same thing. They're made of the same materials. It's a value proposition. And the only person who can decide that value proposition is the individual consumer. It's the exact same way with hiring. If I'm the hiring manager, I am trying to gauge the value of these 2 employees because I'm going to pay them the same salary. I want to get the most bang for my buck, right? Put yourself in that hiring manager's position. Make sense so far?
Yes.
Good? Okay. Any other questions about how to phrase things? Anybody else? I know we had a 3rd student on the line.
This is really interesting because we work on this on not only on letters but even in recommendation letters when we have to write and we ask for this. So many of them, like Crystal and healthcare nowadays in many different jobs. So the way that you're putting it, it really resonates in terms of thinking it differently.
And remember, we talked about this in the first session. There are 7.5 billion people on the planet. You have never had more competition for a job, right? Especially in a time of remote work. If the job you are applying for can be done by anybody in the world, you have a lot of competition. And so how are you going to stand out? The nice part about it is, yes, it's never been more competitive, but it's never been easier to stand out. Also, think about how, you know, people view your generation, Generation Z, right? They think all you guys are on TikTok and you always be texting or, you know, that sort of stuff. So when your materials are professional and you come into that interview and you're well spoken and you have good questions and you're well dressed and you're polished and you're ready, you blow those expectations out of the water because they don't think young people can do it, right? So when you go in there and you're ready to go, they think you're amazing because they did not anticipate you being that amazing when you came in. Does that make sense? It's okay if people underestimate you. It just makes your job of standing out a little bit easier, right? Because you're going to go in there and you're going to rock that interview. You're going to do what you need to do to be prepared for that position. Career Center is going to help you. Your TRIO program is going to help you. You've got a lot of supports around you to take advantage of. Good so far? Okay, so we know what we're supposed to put. Where do we put it? So where do I find these templates? Don't just settle for Microsoft Word. Please, if you learn nothing else in this session, let the Microsoft Word template go. You have that template, and so does every other person who has Microsoft. It's not special. And the wonderful, amazing personality and who you are is not jumping off the page with that template, okay? We want your personality to shine through. So you might have heard of Etsy. You use it to find, you know, cute jewelry, that sort of thing, or Creative Market. So if you guys are on your laptop, go over and open a new tab. And I want you to just quickly search, go into Google. We're going to search Etsy resume and Creative Market resume. And I want you to just have those tabs open so you can come back to them after our session, and then give us a thumbs up once you've got those tabs open. And just look at the options that are out there. There are so many. They're inexpensive. Sometimes they're like $1. They are usually in a format that's very easily editable. A lot of them will be in Microsoft Word or Canva. If you want to go fancy and use an Adobe template, they have tons of those as well. And you're looking at the aesthetic of the resume. Which one of those templates feels like you, right? You are the product you know best. And so which style is resonating with you? And we're going to talk about personal branding and how your personal style is going to come through in your materials in our session 4. But for right now, find ones that are out there that look good to you. Okay. Who has found one? Unmute and let us know what you're finding. Joey, Victoria, what are you guys finding? Might take a second to open up those other tabs.
I found a professional resume template.
Yeah? Do you like it? What about the colors? What about the feel? Are you finding ones that look good that you might be interested in? Okay. What about you other guys? What are we thinking?
I'm sorry. Are you talking about? I took a little break. I missed what you said. What were you saying?
So if you open up a new tab and you look for Etsy resume and Creative Market, just go to Google and let's pull them up. Just Google Etsy resume, Creative Market template resume, see what's out there. I want you guys to be able to come back to those tabs after these sessions and find some things that are jumping off the page at you. Joey, are you finding anything? Anything that's speaking to you?
Yeah, I found one that looks good.
Yeah. So, and there's going to be tons of different options, right? You can sort by color, you can sort by style. A lot of times you want to find ones that have multiple pages to them, so that way you have options. They might also include a cover letter template and a references template. Those are good as well. And so these are just to kind of help you level up that initial template style, right? We can let go of the Microsoft Office template, just let it go. Okay, so once we found a template, here's one that I really like. Let's look at why we like this, okay? If we're looking at this template, what's jumping out at you guys right away? Unmute and let me know.
The colors of the templates.
Uh-huh, yep, so it's not necessarily black and white. It's a little bit easier to read with that dark gray. Yep, what else are we seeing?
I like the different fonts that they used.
Yep, so the headers are one font and the words are the other. Really helps draw your eye to the different sections. Yep, what else are we seeing?
Everything is organized.
Very organized, yep. What else?
They used the 2 pages. The references were included in the second page. That way they didn't have to go to a third one, and they used the space like you referred to earlier.
Yep, very good use of space. They combined a ton of information on here. They've got their languages. We see that, makes it really easy to see what languages they speak. They might not have had a lot of jobs, but they made their resume look full. They got their education on there. They've got their experiences. Do you see that section that says skills? We're going to talk a lot about the skills section. This is a great place to put those keywords from the job application, and we're going to talk about keywords. But it breaks it out. It makes you want to read more, right? So I might not necessarily be jumping around, you know, really reading the in-depth nitty-gritty about the job, but already I'm seeing that this person brings a lot to the table. Does that make sense? And I'm thinking that they probably spent a little bit of time on this, probably more than that person who used that Microsoft Office template. Even if they didn't really, right? They might have just bought a template and whopped their information in there. But it looks like they spent time on it. And that's the important part. They've got their contact information, very easy to find. They included their LinkedIn. They've got their Skype name on there. So if it's a Skype interview, that employer already knows how to reach them. We're making it easy for the employer, right? Also down at the bottom, they have their social links. What do you guys think about including your socials on your resume, your social media? What have you guys heard?
That they most of the times people can already see, or they look you up by your name. So that
Yep.
I think
Yep. So socials are in there. They've also got their awards, right? Someone who's won awards, that tells me more things about you, right? I think. All right, hang on just a second. Let's go back in here. Let's go back in here. All better? Did we fix it? Okay. So they've got their awards here as well. So let's talk about their social media. Should we include it? I am a fan for a couple of reasons. It's a great way to show how much you know about the industry you intend to go into. Employers are going to Google you. We already know that. They're going to do it. And the idea is that you want good, positive content that's about you to be what they easily find on page 1. Social media sites tend to rank really highly in Google, and it's free exposure. So I want you to open a new tab. So we're going to save our Etsy resume templates in a tab. We're going to open a new tab, and I want you to Google yourself. Google your name, first name, last name. If you're not finding anything, try adding your hometown or your school name. But I want you to take a second, go out to Google and Google yourself. And then tell me what you're finding. Unmute and come on in. Tell us what you're finding when you Google yourself. What are you guys seeing that's out there? What's on that first page of Google when you Google your name, or you Google your name in your hometown, your name in your high school, your name and the name of your college? What is out there that employers are seeing right now?
my YouTube,
Your YouTube, okay.
LinkedIn, my athletic records,
Cool.
review I did for a newspaper. My
So they're
Instagram.
seeing writing samples. They're seeing that what a great athlete you were. You had stories written about you. What else are we seeing?
My Facebook and my dean's list.
Look at all these great things that are coming up. And all you had to do is do great things, right? But if I'm an employer and you're on my short list of candidates, what I'm finding is more and more good information that makes me fall in love with you, right? Makes me want to call you in for that interview. Making sense? So your socials rank really highly in Google because Google likes links and they like relevant, up-to-date content. So social media, because you update it every day and it includes a bajillion links, ranks very highly in Google. So why not use that real estate to put out good things about you. So for example, Twitter. Are any of you guys on Twitter? Post up in chat, say, unmute, tell us if you're on Twitter. Twitter's an excellent way to follow industry experts and companies and participate in the conversations that are happening in your industry. Do you guys know what hashtags are? Yes, we've heard of hashtags, right? Hashtags, we know what they are. So hashtags were born on Twitter to curate the conversation. And so Twitter chats are chats that happen at a specific day and time, usually once a month, that are around a certain topic, and people will tweet into the conversation and use that hashtag so that it creates sort of a conversation message board that's public, that's happening out there. And there are Twitter chats for literally everything. There's nursing Twitter chats, there's robotics Twitter chats, there are computer science Twitter chats. So we're going to open a new tab. We're going to go back out to Google, and I want you to Google Twitter chats for the industry you want to go into. So robotics Twitter chats, nursing Twitter chats, and see what's coming up. And then let us know what you're finding. What are these Twitter chats that you're finding out there? Who in your industry is talking? What are you finding? What are we finding out there, guys?
I found Twitter chats that are a way to interact with family nursing colleagues from all around the world.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Like,
Do they have them? Are they monthly? Are they weekly? What chats are they showing off?
Um,
Because I know Med Twitter is a really big one.
I think it happens every year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The committee.
Mm-hmm. What are some other ones? What are some other ones that happen weekly or monthly? So try Googling Twitter chat nursing, Twitter chat medical field, Twitter chat for hospitals, Twitter chats for EMTs, right? What conversation is happening out there for your industry? Joey, are you finding anything on the engineering side? Anything for robotics?
Still looking.
Yeah?
Oh, I found the med chat that takes place every Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Mm-hmm. So if you're on Twitter, you're going to get to talk with these industry professionals once a week, right? And they're going to get to know who you are. And you're going to get to know what the industry is talking about right now, right? So let's say there's a hospital director who's participating in this Twitter chat. If you were to go to their office and try to get a meeting with them, their secretary would probably be like, no, you can't talk to them. They're very busy. He's the hospital director. Can't do it, right? But on Twitter, you can connect with her immediately and have a conversation. The best unsung thing that most people don't think about, using Twitter to connect with your industry experts and see what your conversation is happening in the industry you want to get into. Even if you're not in that industry yet, right? Maybe you want to get into marketing, but you're currently a server or a waitress, or you work at Starbucks, right? You still want to know what marketing industry is saying right now. You want to absorb as much as possible, and you want to get to know the movers and shakers in your industry. Who are the big people that you need to know, right? So you're going to follow them. You're also going to follow potential companies you want to work for. This is a great way of finding out what the company culture is like there and whether you're going to want to work with these people, right? Look them up online. Look up their socials. What are they putting out there? What is that company saying is important to them? How are they participating in the national conversation, right? Twitter is a great way of doing that. Yep, we're going to do that. LinkedIn, we're going to talk about LinkedIn. We're going to have a whole session on LinkedIn next time. But LinkedIn, if you don't have a LinkedIn, you professionally don't exist. And it is the easiest way to find people who are working at the company you want to work at, that are doing the job that you want to do, and you can reach out and talk to them, right? So LinkedIn, we definitely want to include that on your resume, and we definitely want to include that in your professional portfolio. Now, a little word about social media. So your social media is, yes, you, but you also want it to show off who you are in your very best light, right? The professional you that's out there. And so, for example, I have a personal Facebook page that I keep private. It's just for me and my family and friends. But I have a professional Facebook page where I engage with colleagues. It's got my headshot. And I don't put any controversial sort of posts out there, right? So this is a fine line between being authentically true to who you are, but also being professional and appealing to potentially who you might work for at a company. Now, that being said, you don't want to work for a company whose values don't align with your values, right? You know, these companies that are out there, maybe places that you choose not to shop or choose not to patronize, right? You're going to have companies that personally conflict with your values, and that's entirely okay, right? You are a person with thoughts and feelings, and you are a human, and those feelings are valid no matter what. So, for example, if you were to Google me, so if you want to take a second, go out there, Google me, and you have my name somewhere on something. I'm the only one with my name on it, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. You can kind of get an idea of what I'm interested in, what I do professionally, and who I am as a person, right? And I have to walk this fine line between being a public educator, right? So I need to make sure that my stuff is crisp and clean, but also I know that there are companies and schools and universities that don't align with my values that probably would look at my portfolio and my things that are out there and they wouldn't want to hire me. I have to be okay with that. And I am, because those are the same places I know I would personally not want to work. Does that make sense? So this is a balance that everybody needs to find for themselves as to how much information you want to put out there, because people are always judging us no matter what. That's just human nature. They're going to judge us sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for bad reasons, sometimes for dumb reasons. But how we manage that persona that we're coming across, that is within our control, right? Not everybody's going to like you. That's okay. 7.5 billion people on the planet. We don't have to hang out with people we don't like, but we want to make sure that we're putting our best professional foot forward, right? If you're not a nude model, we don't need nude pictures of you on the internet, right? That's not what we're going for, right? You can also take your cues from what these other people in your industry that you're now meeting on LinkedIn and Twitter. What do their social media profiles look like? What are they posting about? What are they interacting with? What does your industry see for people who are professionals and who are succeeding in your industry? What are they talking about? You want to be in those conversations as well. Does that make sense? This one can feel a little sticky. Sometimes people are like, well, I don't know. It's not really me and who I am. But I also, I know that I shouldn't be putting, bad stuff out on the internet. Think of it like you were going to go have lunch with your grandma and your pastor. Those sort of conversations, right? You want to have things that are professional that talk about your skills. Good so far? Okay. The other thing that you can look at is having a personal website or a portfolio. And we're going to talk about this in session 5, how to put together a website and a portfolio. But this is hands down the best way to set yourself apart, because it's going to come up in Google and it's another website where you can talk about how amazing and fabulous you are. So if you make YouTube videos and you know how to do video production and video editing, show that stuff off. If you're a fantastic writer and you're writing for your student newspaper, have a portfolio together of the articles that you've written. If you're an engineer and you build robots, make some videos talking about the projects that you've done, right? Write a blog about the code that you're writing and why you're passionate about robotics and where you want to take it, right? This is one more place to put out good, positive, professional content about you, and it's very, very inexpensive to do it. There's a lot of websites out there, Squarespace, Wix, WordPress. We're going to talk about all of them. and ways that you can show off not only your skills and abilities, but being able to be found by those hiring managers. Does that make sense? It's a lot, and it's something that you might not have been told yet on how to do. But on a planet of 7.5 billion people, we want to take that little extra edge to be that one candidate that they want to call for that interview. Make sense so far? Good? Okay. So now we've done all of this. We've got a resume, we've got our LinkedIn, we're participating in Twitter chats, we're making connections in our industry, we're ready to apply to the job. And along come these ATS systems. So to understand what these are, we need to understand how the career and job market has changed in the last 20 years. So back in the day, right, when I was in high school, if I wanted to go work for McDonald's or Publix or our grocery store, I had to go into that organization and fill out a paper application and turn it into the hiring manager. Now in 2020, you don't do that. You go online to their website, you fill out the online application, you submit it online, and somebody calls you. Most jobs submit them that way. In the early 2000s, we got websites like Monster and Indeed, and they were these job posting boards that made it easy for companies to reach a ton of people all at once. And the websites were like, okay, we can charge companies to post on ours. That's great. But we'll also help and charge employees and make it really easy for them to apply to 100 jobs at once, right? So scale, this idea that you were going to find you 100 perfect jobs and you're going to apply to all 100 with very easy clicks, right? You're going to fill out our application and send it to a bunch of places. Very similar to the idea behind the Common App, right? That you can apply to one school and send it out to all of them. And what this did is it made it easier for people to apply to jobs. And it made it easier for people to apply to jobs they weren't suited for and they weren't really interested in, right? There might not be 100 perfect jobs out there for you to apply to, and you just really want paychecks. So you're willing to take just about any job. So you're blasting these companies with your resume and your application. And the companies are like, whoa, we got 5,000 applicants for this position. I can't read 5,000 resumes. I'm just one little hiring manager. And so these companies were like, all right, now we've created a problem, right? We made it easy for the companies to reach a ton of people. We made it easy for a ton of people to apply, but now we have a problem on the back end. So they redeveloped these systems to weed out all those clutter. And so these applicant tracking systems came about. And what they're doing is they're scanning the application and the resume and the cover letter, and they're looking for keywords, very similar to the way Google operates. And it's pulling those keywords out, and it's serving a score to that hiring manager. So the hiring manager goes in, I have this open position, I have 100 people who've applied. I'm going to close my application window, right? I have 100 applicants. I need to go through these 100 applicants and decide which 5 I'm going to interview, right? I don't really want to look at all 100 applications. I really don't want to read 100 resumes. So I'm going to let my electronic service sort these people based on the keywords and my job description and their resume, and I want it to rank those people based on who's going to be the best fit. And then I'm going to start at the top of the list until I find 5 people I want to interview. And then I'm done, right? So what's happening is a real person is not looking at your materials. It's a robot until you get to that short list, which is really scary because if you're at the bottom of the list, you might have had the most amazing resume and experiences. But if the hiring manager doesn't see it, you're not getting the job. Make sense? Okay, so how do we get around this? A, having a personal referral at that company. That is gold. A personal referral and someone you know who works at that company who can slide your resume to the top of the stack is and always will be the gold standard, right? We talk about how it's not what you know, it's who you know. That is never going to change. That has been the beginning since, the dawn of time. Who you know is going to help you get the roles. So ideally, you want to know someone at that company. You want to have done an informational interview. You want to have a connection with a faculty member or someone from your career center that can put you directly in touch with that person so you can make a good first impression and end up on the top of the stack. But what if you're applying to a company where you don't know anybody? Maybe it's out of state. It's in Washington. You know you want to move to Washington, but you're not there yet. You don't have any connections. We got to work with this applicant tracking system. So how can I hack the system so that way I end up at the top of the stack when this employer goes through to rank people? I want them to see my resume and look at me because I just spent all this time working on my resume. It's beautiful. It's great. It's perfect. How do I do this? So that is through keyword optimization. So these application systems are screening your resume, they're looking for information, and they're looking for the parameters set in the job description. It's going to rank those candidates based on those characteristics, and the hiring manager is going to look at the ones at the top. There's a fantastic website called jobscan.co. So let's open a new tab. Let's go to JobScan. I want you to have this website in your browser history. And what this does is you upload your resume and you copy and paste the job you're applying to, and it shows you what the hiring manager is going to see. And it's going to tell you what your score is based on comparing those two things and where you can improve. It is fantastic, right? No matter how amazing you are, how many skills you've had, your experiences, all your degrees, none of that matters if the hiring manager doesn't know who you are. You're not going to get the job, right? So we have to make these little hacks happen. Are you guys finding JobScan? Unmute, let us know if you found it.
Yeah, I found it.
You found it? Okay. It's free. Don't pay them any money. You upload your so right before you apply to a job, you're going to take the position posting, copy that in there. You're going to rewrite your resume, make it beautiful, put that in there, and let the system compare for you. It is fantastic and very eye-opening to see what a hiring manager is going to see. And you'll notice jobs you think you're really qualified for, you might come back as scored very low, and you might not ever get in front of that hiring manager, which is not fair. But that is the system we are working with. Most systems are not fair. We have to know how to work around them. Good so far? Okay, so we're going to practice this. So I found a job description. This is a job that is currently hiring. I pulled it from the internet. I'm not going to read it to you. You know how to read. If you were looking at this job description, what keywords are jumping out at you that we should be sure to have on our resume so we can rank highly in these tracking systems? What are you guys seeing? Unmute, let me know as you're finding words in this job description, what is jumping out at you? Unmute and let us know. What are we seeing? So this is for a marketing manager position. Basic job. Doesn't have the salary listed. Fully remote. What are we seeing? So beginning of it, they tell you the exact title they're looking for. Gives you a little blurb about the company. What keywords? If we're looking at the responsibilities of this position, this is who they're looking for. They're telling you right now what they want. What are we seeing? What keywords are jumping out? Unmute and let us know what you're seeing. What are we seeing, guys? What's jumping out at you?
The one with management skills.
What about management?
They're looking for somebody who has management skills.
Management experience. What else? What else is jumping out?
Positioning of brand or products and services of companies.
What does that mean?
I believe it's like when you bring these products or introducing these brands so the company can sell them or other companies that can buy them.
Yep. What else are we seeing? We're seeing a lot of action words. Analyze, strategize, create, report, coordinate, communicate, action verbs. They want to see that you've done this, right? This is what they're asking for. Even if you don't have the experience to do this job, right? Maybe you have never strategized and managed an advertising campaign. But have you strategized in other jobs that you've had? Have you had to use strategy? Have you had to manage projects? Right? These are the keywords they're going to be looking for. Maybe you worked on a marketing plan for a class. Able to prioritize and coordinate multiple projects. You do that in college every day. You're taking 5, 6 classes, you're having to prioritize, you're having to manage multiple projects, competing work demands, seeing the big picture while managing several small projects. You do that every day. Is that reflected in your materials? Because if not, the hiring manager is not going to see you in the system. Does this make sense? Yes? Yes? So what keywords are jumping out? These are the keywords from the posting that are very likely going to be in that applicant tracking system. And this is what the tracking system is looking for in your resume and your cover letter. Words like marketing, improve, analyzing, trends, strategize, execute, coordinate multiple projects, analytics. They use the word analyze 5 times in that job description. Social media posts. So if you've got experience making social media posts, that needs to be in your resume. Even if it's not what you're doing for currently your job, right? The student who mentioned their YouTube channel, you're making content. They talk about content a lot. Might not have been a job you've done, but you've got experience doing it. So is that experience surfacing in your resume and your cover letter? They talk about SEO, search engine optimization. They talk about managing events, forums, webinars, conferences. And so what I want to do is make sure that these keywords are on my resume. If they're not on my resume yet, I need to find opportunities to get this experience. Because if this is the job I want, they're telling me what skills I need to bring to the table. How can I get these skills if I don't have this job yet? What do you guys think? How can you get these skills if you don't have this job yet? What are some ways you could get this for your resume? Unmute and let us know. How can I get these skills?
From current positions.
From your current position, yep. So maybe you're not right now working on the ad campaign for your company, but I bet you could ask if you could volunteer to help that team out. What else? What else could we do? What about student organizations? Do they need to do social media? The clubs and organizations at your school, they probably use that. Student government probably makes social media posts. I bet you could volunteer, get involved that way. Coordinating events, if you're a part of Greek life or any club or organization, maybe they participate in homecoming and there's multiple projects that they have to do. You can get experience that way through a student organization. You could also volunteer with an organization and tell them, this is the experience I want to get. What options do you guys have for me? Right? I might work for Metropolitan Ministries and I might talk to them about, I want to help manage your website. I want to help manage your mailing list. I want to help coordinate these events. Totally, Metropolitan Ministries is a place we normally think of to volunteer. And we think of it as like the food kitchen and serving food, but they're a business as well. They're going to have all of these opportunities. Maybe there's a small business in your community that you could volunteer to help with and say, hey, I'm going to go to my favorite pizza place and I want to tell them that I need to get these skills and I want to help learn these skills by helping this business that I feel very warm and fuzzy towards, right? Take them that job description and say, look, I'm a college student. I'm trying to get, this is my dream position. These are the skills they're asking for. I need to work on learning these skills, and I would like to do that with your company. You want to work for free in a bad economy? There's an excellent chance those companies are going to say yes to you. And if it's a company you already like, know, and trust, right? This is your favorite pizza place in the world. You already know a lot about them. And they already know you because you're probably a good customer, right? There's ways to get these opportunities. You could also go to your school itself, right? They probably have social media people at your school. Can you get involved on that team? Can you go to the marketing department of your university? Do they have maybe a work study position you could have? Do they need someone to help with mailing lists or to help with the career fairs or the admissions fairs? You can talk your way into just about anything. But the idea is that we need to know the position we're aiming for and what that hiring manager wants for that position so that I can go find opportunities to get those skills to put on my resume. Does that make sense? We're thinking long game here. Good so far? Good? Okay. So now that we've got these keywords, we want to make sure that our resume that's beautiful now has those keywords in there. Where can I put those keywords on this resume? What do you guys think? Where should I put these keywords? Unmute and let us know. Where can I be putting these keywords in? If this is my template.
In the job descriptions?
In the job descriptions, yes. Show me how you've had these jobs before, right? If you've done the work I want to know that. Where else? Where else could I put this?
The skills area.
The skills area, right? Makes it super easy. It's right there, right? So if this company told me, I want someone who can strategize, analyze, do reports, why wouldn't I use that skills area to put those exact words right in there? So if I'm the hiring manager, I wrote that job description. I've seen those words because I wrote them. I want to see those words on your resume because that makes you jump out at me and it shows me you read my job posting, right? I want to make that hiring manager stop and spend more than 6 minutes looking at my resume. Make sense? Yes. So those skills are a great place to put those in there. That's also a great place to put any software that you know. If you're certified in Excel or Photoshop or Salesforce or something that your industry uses, right? C++ for computer science, Java, HTML, things that make sense to your industry. Did you get a certification in them? Put them on your resume. Use those keywords from the posting. They told you exactly what they are looking for. Get those competencies in some way, put them on your resume. If we don't have those competencies, we're going to go find them. Lynda.com, Coursera, YouTube. You can learn anything off of YouTube these days. There are so many training courses out there, free and low cost, through your career center and just generally on the internet. You can learn literally anything you want to learn, right? So if that job description told me they want to know about reports, marketing reports, how to analyze marketing reports, how to tracking analytics, I bet I could go to Google and say tracking analytics course and find a course that'll teach me how to do that. And then once I've taken that course, yes, I'm adding it to my resume before I apply to this job. Or in between me applying to this job and me being called for that interview, right? I'm going to prepare for it. The technical skills section breaks it out, makes it easy to read. Remember that hiring manager is only going to look at this resume for about 6 seconds before they go on to the next one. What I want them to do is move my pile from the no to the at least I want to call them. I want to get them in for a phone interview. I want to do some more Google stalking. This person's bringing a lot of stuff to the table and I need to research them, right? So I'm going to go through these 100 resumes real quick. I'm going to whittle down my stack to absolutely not, maybes, and the definite yes. That definite yes is where I want to be, right? I want to at least get that interview. I want to be the person they call because I really want this position. That's the other thing. We don't want to apply to jobs you don't want to take. That wastes your time and it wastes the recruiter's time, right? We have this problem with the tracking system, and we have this, these robots looking at our resumes that we have to worry about, these ATS systems, because people were applying for jobs that they didn't really want or had no interest in actually taking, right? If I'm in Florida and I want to stay in Florida, I might not want to talk to a company in Colorado. That's a waste of my time. That's a waste of their time. So being strategic about the jobs you're applying for. When you're seeing people applying for 200, 300 jobs and they're not getting any callbacks, it's probably because they're not being very special with what they're applying for. They're just throwing it all at the wall, and they're not even coming up in those applicant tracking systems. They're just wasting their time spinning their wheels. And that feels horrible as an employee, right? It's very distressing to be out of the job market and having no one call you. That is really not a good place to be. Make sense so far? Good with the technical skills? Any questions on what we've covered so far? Got about a half hour left and a few more things to cover. Where are you guys at? How are you thinking? We good? A little fried? Unmute, let us know. Turn on your cameras. How we doing? Thumbs up, thumbs down? I know I'm throwing a lot at you, and it is heavy stuff, but we're making it work. All right, so our resume is great. We talked about how to get a good template. We talked about how to get the skills I need. What are the other pieces? We need a cover letter. We need a cover letter. Cover letters for every job. Why is that? It tells me that you put a little bit of extra effort into who you are and why you're applying for this job. It's another page to get me to fall in love with you and want to call you for the interview. Why would you not take that opportunity? When I'm a hiring manager and I go in and I'm hiring for advisors, if you don't give me a cover letter, I'm not looking at your stuff because you didn't respect my time enough to send that to me and tell me why you want to work here, right? Remember, that hiring manager has the job. You want what they have. Put your best foot forward. So we're always going to include a cover letter. We're going to address it to the hiring manager. It does not take very long to figure out who the hiring manager for that position is. It's very easy to find on Google. Do a little bit of Google stalking, and it shows you know how to research, that you research that company and research that position. It tells me about who you are as a person. Take that little extra effort, address it to the hiring manager. Don't just say, "Dear hiring manager." Take 2 extra seconds and figure out who the hiring manager is. And then in that first letter, I love this example because the actual cover letter tells you what to put in the cover letter. So you're going to come back to these slides later, bookmark this picture. So that first section, that first paragraph is going to answer what is the position you are applying to, where you found it, and why they should hire you. Demonstrate excitement, right? Hi, my name is Cassandra, and I'm applying for the marketing manager position that I found on Indeed.com. I am excited to present my materials and, write something like that. Get off on that good foot. Imagine you're at an event and you're sticking out your hand and you're introducing yourself to that hiring manager and making a good, solid first impression. That's what your cover letter is doing. Second paragraph, you're going to talk about your education and your training and your certifications, how you meet those minimum requirements. Remember that tracking system is looking for that. So if those minimum requirements say associate's degree, high school diploma, college degree, bachelor's, master's, you want to include that in your cover letter, right? So mine might say, "Hi, I'm Cassandra Serino and I'm applying for the marketing manager position as posted on Indeed.com. I hold a bachelor's in business management, an MBA, a master's in education, and a doctorate in education from Vanderbilt University," right? I'm going to give you my credentials and I'm going to hit them right there at the beginning. Then I'm going to talk about the connection between the company's needs and my background and skills, stressing what I'm bringing to the table, right? This is not, I don't want to hear about, how I want to work for a company and I want something that's going to help me grow and I want to get experience in this field. I don't want to hear that because as a hiring manager, I don't care what you want. I care about what I need. Remember that hiring manager has a job. They need someone to come in and do this work so they don't have to do it. Think of it from their perspective. What are you bringing to the table, right? They were looking for that marketing manager. Tell me how you fill that role. Maybe you've had that job before. Maybe you've held that job in your student organization. Maybe you've got some training in that area. Talk about why you're the candidate I should hire. And then your last paragraph is going to wrap it all up professionally. Tell me that you're interested in an interview and include your contact information. Make it easy for me to contact you. Be professional, be polite. I love how they wrap this up, right? I am confident in my skills and experience. I would excel at this opportunity. I would appreciate the opportunity to meet with you further to discuss the contributions I can offer. Here's my contact information, my phone number, my email address, whatever. Sincerely, my name, right? Professional, polite, but also impactful, right? The goal is to make this hiring manager want to meet you. Does that make sense? Cover letter is super important. And then your contact information. Make it easy for that hiring manager to fall in love with you. Oh, you know what? This cover letter is amazing. I want to email them right away. Look, they got their email address right there for me. I don't have to go back to their resume and hunt for it. It is right there. And it matches their resume, right? So it tells me that you put a little bit of extra time into making your materials look beautiful and easy for me as the hiring manager to read. Does that make sense so far? Yes? Okay. Cover letters. Questions about cover letters. A lot of times we don't talk about it. What do you guys think? Good so far? Know what we're expecting? Unmute, let me know. Give me some feedback.
To me, an important thing is the tone, that they don't sound canned, like you lift those paragraphs from preset and it doesn't sound like the person that I'm really getting to meet through this information.
Exactly. Exactly. It is all about you as a person. Is this connecting with the person on the other side? That is absolutely it. So cover letter is super important. Your career center can help you with these. When you're in your job process and you're applying to jobs, lean on your career center, lean on your trio advisors, have people read your cover letter. Get feedback on it. Make sure the grammar is good. There's no spelling errors, none of that. References, we talked about references. We want to include at least 3 to 4 professional connections. I like putting them on your resume because if you're going to get hired, they're probably going to ask anyway. And if you don't have enough information to fill out a resume, it's a good use of space. So, who do we ask for references? Former supervisors. I am a huge fan of asking for your boss before your current boss. Why is that? I don't care what your current boss as a hiring manager. So when I'm hiring, I don't care what your current boss has to say. 2 reasons. A, you're either a great worker and they love you and they're going to say good things about you. Or you're an awful worker and they want to get rid of you, so they're going to say great things about you, right? Either way, I'm getting kind of a biased activity. But if I go back a couple bosses and they still say nice things about you, that is a great, powerful reference. So former supervisors are an excellent person to ask. And you want to ask them before you list them. Make sure it's okay if you list them on as a reference. Some people are uncomfortable with it, so you want to make sure that they know it's coming. You also want to talk with them about the roles that you're applying to, the jobs, and what you are expecting them to provide. Give them some cheat sheets, right? So I might let my former boss know, hey, I'm applying for this job, this marketing manager position I was looking at, and I would really appreciate it if you can talk about XYZ big project we worked on and how we came in under budget and ahead of schedule. That would be really great. Give them that cheat sheet. Let them know what's expected of them. Remember, they are doing you a favor and they're not getting paid for it. So we want to give them as much information as possible. You can also ask coworkers. I love talking to coworkers because they're going to give it to me straight. These are the people that have worked with you on a project. Maybe they've served on a committee with you. Maybe you had a group project in a class together, right? I want someone who can speak to your professionalism and how you function in a group. So much of our workplace nowadays is you have to work with other people, and I need to know you know how to do that, right? So these could be connections from class, these could be connections from a professional society that you belong to, or they could be coworkers at your current company that are going to say nice things about you. Totally okay as well. We're also going to do the same thing. We're going to talk to them beforehand, give them the cheat sheet of information, what you're going to be asking of them, and the name of the company that's probably going to be calling them. So that way you don't catch them by surprise. That is rude. Don't do that. You can also ask former professors, advisors, and mentors, especially if you haven't had a lot of jobs yet, so you don't have a lot of former supervisors, or if there's a professor in a class that can speak to your work ethic and motivation, right? If there's a particularly impressive class you've taken, maybe that anatomy class for your nursing program, maybe a really hard robotics coding class for your engineering program. And that professor can talk about how you manage challenge and how you rose to the occasion and put in the work effort and got that A in that class or turned it around at midterms, and they're saying good things about you. Ideally, all of your references should say good things about you, but slightly different good things, right? Your boss is going to tell me about how you came to work on time, you were never late, you were always there, you were the first one in, the last one out, great work ethic. Your professor is going to talk to me about how you never missed class, how you were genuinely excited to learn the material. Your coworkers are going to talk about how you were a good group team member. You always pulled your weight in the meetings and you got your deliverables in on time. All good things about you, but slightly different good things. Make sense? References are important. Have a couple of people in your back pocket that you can ask, because different people might resonate with different industries, right? I work in education, so a lot of my references are former professors of mine. You might have other people that make sense to you. Maybe a sports coach, maybe someone who works for that company already, and you want to make sure that for that particular job, they're listed as a reference. This is why when we talk about we're rewriting your resume for every job you apply for, we're tailoring these little things, right? So I might want to have someone on there who's got a very prestigious title, right? For me, it might be a vice president at my university. For you, it might be that nursing director at your volunteer location, something like that. Who are these people in your industry that have clout that you can then use that clout to say nice things about you? Good so far? References. Okay. Couple more slides, guys. Hold with me. This is all about the details, okay? So when we're talking about your materials, when we're talking about your resume, your cover letter, your references, we're showing them that you understand it's the little things that make the impression, right? You're willing to go that extra little mile to make that impact on that hiring manager. So some things I like to do. I like to color match my resume to the company's colors I'm applying to. A lot of the jobs I'm applying to are marketing or colleges in general, right? That's what I would apply to. And so I want to show them I understand their marketing and their brand colors by tailoring my resume to that exact color. Just a little bitty detail to show I've done some research. I'm going to address that hiring manager by name. It's not hard to figure out who that person is, and we're hardwired to like seeing our name in print. So I'm going to address them in there. I'm going to connect on LinkedIn, other employees at that company, other people in related roles at adjacent companies, and bonus if I can do this before I actually apply to the job. So that way when that hiring manager goes in LinkedIn, they see I know people at their company already. Little bitty hacks. And then networking cards. We're going to talk about networking cards next. How many of you have your own card to give out at events, in-person events, career fairs, networking nights, industry nights? Anybody get a networking card yet? Thumbs up, thumbs down. This is going to help you stand out from other students. When I teach a freshman experience class, I make all my freshmen make these, and they tell me when they go to the professional events, they're the only student there who has them. Networking cards are amazing. It shows off that you're willing to go that extra mile. So we're going to open a new tab. We're going to go to Google, and I want you to go to moo.com, MOO.com, like the cow. Cow say moo, right? Moo.com. Moo is a printing company, and they are fantastic. What I want you to do is go to moo.com, and I want you to sign up for an account. When you sign up for an account, don't buy anything that first day. You're going to order their free paper pack, and they're going to send you one of everything they make so you can see your options. And it's free. So moo.com. So we're going to open a new tab. I want you to go to moo.com so you have it in your browser history. Make a networking card. They have different sizes. They have different shapes. They have templates. You can make your own. You can add pictures, whatever you would like. These are your networking cards. I have several different networking cards, and when I go to conferences and I speak, I have different cards that match my outfits when I go to conferences. Why is that? So if I wear a yellow dress and I'm presenting and my PowerPoint is yellow and my dress is yellow, and I hand you a yellow business card, it's going to make you remember when you get home that mine was the presentation, I was wearing yellow, and my card is yellow, and it's going to stand out. So it's extra little hacks, right? If I'm at a convention and I'm wearing the blue outfit, I might hand out the blue cards, right? I'm trying to stand out in their memory. What I'm doing is I'm making a connection at an in-person event, and I'm trying to influence that person to think nice things about me. I want to add them on LinkedIn later. I might be following up about a job or a speaking engagement, but I want to impress that person, right? And if you don't have a job currently where you have a business card to exchange, this is an excellent way to have something when you ask for their card that you can give them something back. I promise you, if you do this, you will blow them away. They are not used to students doing it. So what do I include on my business card? Did you guys find Moo? Let me double check, make sure. Unmute, let me know. Did you guys find the website?
Yep.
Yes? Are we excited? So many cool things? Maybe?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So what are we going to include on your networking card? You can make as many networking cards as you want. A lot of students might include their major if you haven't graduated yet, right? So like that picture there, economics major, maybe your school name, your graduation year. If your GPA is above that 3.5 or higher, you might include your GPA. You're going to include your contact information, that professional email address we made earlier, that link to your LinkedIn, maybe a phone number if you feel comfortable handing that out, but your contact information. And it should match your materials. Ideally, the aesthetic of your networking card is going to match the aesthetic of your resume. Does that make sense? So that way you're at that career fair, you're at that industry night, you exchange cards. If later on you see them at the career fair, they're going to remember you, and you're going to have that printed copy of your resume to leave with that recruiter. The idea is to make them know that you care about the details, that you care about the presentation and the first impression that you are making with them. Does that make sense? Right? It's the same reason we dress up for dates. It's the same reason we wear a suit to the interview. It's the same reason, right? We want to make that great first impression. It's so, so, so important. Okay? And these are very inexpensive. You can design them online, spend $10, get a pack of these cards, have them for your next career event or speaking engagement if you're going to go see a speaker or a lecture on your campus, or a professional event or an industry networking night. You're going to connect with people. Carry these with you all the time. I promise you, the first person you hand a networking card to, you're going to blow them away. I promise you. I think, Anna, that's how we met at a conference, and we exchanged cards, and it was like, wow, this is really cool, right? Because people might have their business cards, but for students to have something that's special and that's yours, you're going to blow them away. Good so far? Good on networking cards. Okay. So,
quick question. Do you send your networking card with your materials when you apply if you mail your materials? Barely.
You can. You totally can, especially if it matches and it's pretty. But your networking card, most of the time, you're not going to be mailing your application. You're going to be applying online.
And for nowadays in the new world, so it might be a bit of time before we get to more events.
Exactly. Yep.
So this is something to think about. Is there an equivalent of this networking card? I mean, is that what LinkedIn in essence?
That's your electronic would be your LinkedIn. Yeah. Yep. But you'd be surprised where you might meet people even during COVID, right? You get into a conversation at the grocery store, or you're at your current job and a client comes in and you get to talking with them, and you all of a sudden, find out you have a mutual connection and want to follow up later. This also gives you time to order these, because they do take about a week or so to come in. And so having them ready to go when you need them. They even have cute little ones that are tiny. They're fantastic. Highly, highly recommend. Okay, so homework, your mission, if you choose to accept it. Create your professional email address if you don't have one already. Something first name, last name at Gmail, something simple that is very you. If that's taken, try combinations, first name, middle initial, first initial, last name, some sort of combination there. Your current resume, so make sure your information on there is current. You try using a new template. Find something on Etsy that you really like. Pick a template there. Create your resume and send me a copy so I can look it over. I'll give you some feedback on it and send it back to you. Also, send it to your TRIO advisor. Let them know that you're doing this as well. Getting their feedback is really, really valuable. So send me your resume. And then if you don't have a LinkedIn yet, I want you to start a profile before our next meeting, because it's going to help when we go over things about LinkedIn if you've seen the inside of the platform before. So make a LinkedIn profile using that new professional Gmail address, and I want you to start filling it in. At least minimum your headshot, your summary, adjusting your URL, and adding at least one job in there, just so you can see how the functionality of the system works. And we're going to put that LinkedIn link on your resume and send that in. And if you can send it to me before October 29th, that's the day before our next meeting, I can get you feedback before we go in and talk about LinkedIn. Okay? So that is your homework. And our next session is going to be October 30th. We're going to be talking all about LinkedIn and how to translate what you've now put on your resume onto LinkedIn. So it will be really, really helpful if your resume is pretty tight and it's got good verbiage on there, so we can copy and paste some of that into LinkedIn for next time. So we have 5 minutes left. We are doing great on time. What questions do you guys have on anything we've covered today? You're going to get this recording so you can watch it later, but what questions do you guys have right now for me before we wrap up here? Unmute, let us know. What did you think? What questions did you have? Is this useful? Did you like it? Give me some feedback, guys.
I thought that it was really useful and beneficial for me because I had no experience or knowledge in this, and it really helped me.
Good, 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 good. Do you feel confident in being able to put something together now? At
Yeah.
least basic? Good.
Yeah.
Good. Do you have a job in mind that you're thinking about applying to? Do you have something new coming up?
As for right now, no, but at my nursery home, I know that you can apply for like CNA jobs.
Amazing.
So that would be like a next step probably for me.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. This is great. Yeah. And now you can take this information and help your friends, your family, people that you know that are job searching. A lot of people are job searching right now, and this is a way of just making that little bit of extra effort to stand out.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Joey, Vanessa, how are you guys doing?
I liked that about like, well, I kind of already knew a little bit about resumes, but there you offered some information on like networking cards and creating like a blog and stuff like that, and kind of just being able to have the opportunity to tell a little bit more about yourself as a
Definitely.
Googling you, and
Yeah. because that's it. It's all about getting the hiring manager to know who you are, right? You want to find a job that you're going to like, but also that you're going to be comfortable working at. It's got to match your personality.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Joey, are you good on your side?
Yeah, I'm good. I think
Okay.
this really gave me a lot of good ideas for how to improve my resume.
Fantastic, fantastic. So yeah, so definitely if you have other friends to encourage them to come to the next one. The next one we're going to talk a lot about LinkedIn and how to translate this information now from your resume into that online digital space to make it easy to get found. That is really everything. And I've noticed a lot for college students, they don't usually have really great LinkedIn profiles. And so it's very easy to stand out by making your profile fantastic. And we're going to translate everything we've done now onto the electronic space for next time. So make use of those links that we talked about today. Go through and Google yourself, check out moo.com, order that free paper pack. Once you sign up for more information and you order that paper pack, they're going to send you discount codes too. So that's the other reason. We don't want to buy anything the first day. Get that paper pack, order it for free, let them send you some discount codes. Check on Etsy for resume templates, talk with friends, see what templates they've got that are out there. Google resume templates. There are tons out there. Find one that speaks to you, that feels like who you are. It feels like your personality. That helps a lot. And yeah, we'll see you on the flip side in the next session in 2 weeks. So yeah, Anna, do you have anything else we need here at the wrap up? Anything on this side?
No, I am going to stop the recording now, and thank you for an amazing session. I am really blown away. I have learned a lot today. So I am excited to have seen Joy, Vanessa, and Crystal on board here today. We are also talking, hold on, I'm gonna stop this. Thank you.